The following days brought a mixture of tension and anticipation. Princess Lyria could feel the pull of the soulmate indicator in her mind even when Jason was not near. A quiet hum that reminded her she could not ignore the connection. She carried herself with composure before her advisors. Yet inside, she felt a growing storm of emotion she could neither name nor control. Every moment with Jason was both exhilarating and terrifying. The human was everything her world had not prepared her for. Calm under pressure. Kind yet strong, and unaware of the extraordinary effect he had on her life. Jason, for his part, remained focused on his duties, though he could not deny the subtle fascination he felt toward the princess. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, regal yet approachable, cautious yet curious. Humans rarely bonded with alien species, and Jason had long believed that interactions would remain formal, limited to diplomacy and observation. But there was something different about Lyria warmth that went beyond protocol, a sharp intelligence that drew him in, and a presence that made him feel both alert and strangely at peace. The peace of their routine was shattered. One morning, when alarms echoed through the flagship, a rival faction, long opposed to Lyria's family, had launched a surprise attack on the outer docking bays. Explosions rocked the city below, and the flagship's shields flared as emergency protocols activated. Lyria's heart pounded, fear gripping her chest, yet she forced herself to remain composed. Her advisors rushed to her side, giving rapid instructions and briefing her on the situation. The human delegation was under threat, and Jason was immediately on alert. Without hesitation, Jason moved toward the emergency control area. Lyria followed, her royal instincts pushing her to remain close to the humans in danger. Their eyes met briefly as they navigated the chaos. And in that fleeting glance, Lyria felt the indicator pulse strongly again, as if urging her to act. She did not fully understand what it meant, but she knew she could not ignore it. The enemy forces breached the outer defenses, and the flagship's security teams engaged in rapid combat. Lyria observed the human guards in action, noting their skill, precision, and ability to adapt to an alien environment. Jason moved fluidly, anticipating threats and neutralizing them with calculated efficiency. The princess felt a mixture of awe and fear. In all her years, she had never seen anyone respond so quickly, so decisively. Under such pressure, amid the chaos, an explosive charge threatened the main docking area. Lyria instinctively stepped forward to warn Jason, but a blast sent debris flying. Without hesitation, he lunged, shielding her with his body. Their hands touched briefly as he stabilized her, and the soulmate indicator flared with brilliant intensity, lighting the room with an undeniable glow. Lyria froze, unable to move, her chest tight with a mixture of fear, shock, and something more she could not name. Jason's eyes met hers, filled with concern and calm determination. "Stay behind me," he commanded, voice steady despite the roar of destruction around them. The clarity of his command, the certainty of his action, made Lyria's heart pound in ways she had never experienced. The indicator pulsed again, as if affirming the bond that neither of them had yet spoken aloud. The battle continued, with alien troops and human guards working together to repel the intruders. Lyria's advisors attempted to maintain order, but she found herself instinctively moving toward Jason whenever danger approached. Each time their hands brushed, each time he protected her from harm, the indicator flared, and a strange heat of recognition filled her chest. She realized with growing certainty that the connection was real, undeniable, and far stronger than she had ever imagined. After what felt like hours, the enemy forces were finally driven back. The flagship's shields were damaged, and several sections required immediate repairs, but the crisis had passed. Lyria stood beside Jason, still trembling slightly from the adrenaline and the intensity of their bond. Her chest heaved as she struggled to regain composure. She had witnessed bravery, skill, and courage that went beyond anything she had known in her sheltered life. And she could no longer deny the pull the indicator had revealed. Jason turned to her, his expression calm but serious. "Are you all right, princess?" he asked again, unaware of the indicator's significance but noticing her tension. "Yes," she said, forcing a composed tone, though her hands shook slightly. Thank you for your courage. You saved many lives today." Her voice softened, betraying a hint of the emotions she could not hide entirely. Jason nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "It was my duty, Princess. I protect those around me. That is what I do." He did not speak of the strange warmth he felt whenever she was near, the curiosity that drew him closer despite the risks. He had a duty, and yet he could not ignore the inexplicable connection that lingered between them. The days following the attack were tense. Repairs had to be completed quickly, security had to be reinforced, and the delegation's schedule could not be disrupted. Lyria found herself observing Jason more closely than ever. She noted the way he interacted with her people, the way he respected customs while maintaining his own integrity. Every gesture, every word, seemed to deepen the bond that the soulmate indicator had revealed. During a private moment in the gardens, Lyria finally allowed herself to speak aloud, if only to the flowers that surrounded her. "Why him?" she whispered. "Why a human? Why now?" Her voice carried a mixture of fear, wonder, and longing. She could not answer the questions herself. She only knew the pull was real and that ignoring it was impossible. Jason, unaware she had spoken, approached the gardens to inspect structural damage from the recent attack. He paused when he saw her, sensing a tension he could not name. "Princess," he said softly, "are you all right?" She looked up, her chest tightening at the sight of him. The sunlight glinted off his uniform, highlighting the strength and calm that had drawn her attention since the first day. She hesitated, then said yes. "I am recovering." She spoke the truth in part, though it was not the whole truth. She was recovering physically, but her mind was captivated by a bond she could not yet explain. They walked together, maintaining polite conversation, while the garden's calm offered a stark contrast to the chaos of the recent attack. Lyria found herself stealing glances at him, noting small details, the way he carried himself, the subtle kindness in his eyes, the way his hands moved confidently without arrogance. Each glance reminded her of the indicator, of the impossible truth that had been revealed in a single touch. Later, Lyria summoned Dr. Velen again to discuss the indicator. "It cannot be a coincidence," she said firmly. "It happened twice now, under very different circumstances. The bond is real." Dr. Velen adjusted his glasses thoughtfully. "Indeed, Princess. The device is calibrated with extreme precision. It cannot be fooled. If it has activated for a human, then the bond is scientifically undeniable." Lyria exhaled slowly. The weight of the revelation pressed on her chest. She had spent her life following rules, protocols, and traditions. Now everything was challenged by a single impossible truth. She had a soulmate, one she could not predict, one she could barely understand, and one who belonged to a species her empire had rarely trusted. That evening, during a strategy meeting with her advisors, Lyria found herself distracted once more. Jason was present, observing protocols and offering insights when asked. Every time their eyes met, the indicator pulsed faintly in her mind, a reminder she could not ignore. She realized that the bond was no longer something private hit affected her thoughts, her reactions, and her ability to focus. She needed answers, but she also needed time. After the meeting, Lyria approached Jason privately in a quiet corridor. The moment was brief, yet charged. Their hands brushed again lightly, and the indicator pulsed softly, a gentle reminder of the connection they shared. Lyria's chest tightened, her mind racing with questions she could not yet voice. Jason looked at her, sensing her tension but unsure why she seemed both drawn to him and hesitant. "You were remarkable today," she said finally, her voice soft but steady. "Without your actions, many lives could have been lost." Jason's expression remained calm, though a faint warmth touched his eyes. "It was my duty, Princess. I only acted to protect those around me." "That is all I know to do," Lyria nodded, feeling the truth of his words and the depth of his character. She realized that the bond the indicator revealed was not just a scientific anomaly, it was mirrored in his actions, his integrity, and his presence. She had been trained to rely on reason, yet now she felt compelled to trust something beyond reason, beyond protocol and beyond expectation. As night fell over the city, Lyria returned to her chambers, exhausted but restless. She sat by the window, staring at the lights below, reflecting on the events of the day. The bond with Jason was undeniable, confirmed not just by the soulmate indicator, but by the courage, honor, and kindness he had displayed. Her world was changing. She knew that the days ahead would challenge her in ways she could not yet imagine. Yet one thing was certain: she could not ignore the connection. It pulsed in her chest, whispered in her mind, and guided her thoughts in ways that defied logic and tradition. The human captain had touched her hand, had saved lives, and had activated something profound. Lyria realized that. The next morning, Ethan tried to act normal, but normal was difficult. Every time he walked down the hall, every time he passed a doorway, he felt as if Lyra's eyes were on him. He reminded himself over and over that he was imagining it, that he had just walked into her room by accident. But deep down, he knew it was more than that. The way she had looked at him, the intensity in her gaze, had been impossible to forget. At the engineering lab, Ethan tried to focus on the work before him. Energy integration projects were complex, even for humans, and the presence of alien technology made it even more challenging. The alien systems were elegant, almost organic in design, and required precise understanding. Ethan had spent weeks learning the intricacies, but today, the equations and schematics blurred as his thoughts drifted to Lyra. He shook his head and tapped the edge of a console. "Focus," he muttered to himself. "Just work." Yet even as he worked, he noticed small things that he had never paid attention to before. A notebook left on his desk, filled with alien symbols, but when he looked closer, he realized someone had translated some sections into human language. Diagrams he did not recognize yet seemed tailored to the problems he was working on. He frowned. Was this some new collaboration from the aliens? Or had Lyra left it for him? He felt a mix of anxiety and curiosity. He glanced toward the lab entrance, half expecting to see her appear, watching him as she had before. But the corridor was empty, save for a few human colleagues moving about. By midday, the tension became impossible to ignore. During the lunch break, Ethan found himself hesitating near the alien dining area. Humans were allowed to enter, but it was rare for them to do so without invitation. He walked in slowly, trying to appear casual, and immediately noticed Lyra seated alone at a table. She was studying a small device in her hands, her posture calm yet alert. She looked up, and their eyes met. Ethan froze, his stomach tightening. It was not anger or annoyance in her gaze. She did not look offended. She looked intrigued, and a tiny smile brushed her lips. Barely noticeable, but enough to make Ethan feel as if the room had grown warmer. He swallowed and approached slowly. "Good morning," he said cautiously. As if speaking louder might shatter the delicate balance between them, Lyra inclined her head slightly. "Human engineer?" she said, her voice calm but precise. "You are awake early," Ethan nodded. "Yes, I wanted to get a head start on the new integration tests." He realized he was rambling. His hands fidgeted, and he felt embarrassed under her gaze. Lyra watched him for a long moment, then turned her attention back to the device in her hands. Ethan realized he had nothing to say that could explain the photograph or his accidental intrusion into her room. So he simply ate in silence, though his thoughts were far from his meal. After lunch, a message arrived at his console. It was from Lyra, though the format was formal and efficient. "Meet me in the observation lab in 30 minutes. I have a matter to discuss." Ethan stared at the screen, heart pounding. He had no idea what she wanted. Did she want to confront him about the photo? Or had she already decided it was nothing, and this was just routine? He tried to steady himself and focused on his work, but his hands shook slightly as he adjusted the equipment. 30 minutes later, Ethan entered the observation lab. It was a wide space filled with glass panels looking out over the alien station's energy core. The colors of the core pulsed softly, illuminating both human and alien equipment with a faint glow. Lyra was already there, standing near a console, studying data flowing across multiple holographic displays. She turned as he entered. You came, she said, a simple statement, yet the tone carried more than just observation. Ethan nodded. Yes, you requested. Sit, she said, indicating a chair across from her. He obeyed. Silence settled between them for a moment. Ethan's mind raced, trying to predict what she would say next. Then Lyra spoke, calmly and precisely. The photograph. You saw it yesterday? Ethan swallowed hard. Yes, he admitted. I didn't know why it was there. I didn't mean to intrude. Lyra's eyes did not flicker with anger. Instead, they studied him carefully, as if she was weighing every word, every micro-expression. You did not intrude in the way humans usually do. Your presence here, it has purpose. Ethan blinked. Purpose? Yes, she said simply. I have observed you. Your work, your behavior. You show courage, intelligence, and consideration. Qualities that are rare among humans. He could not help but laugh nervously. You've been watching me? Lyra inclined her head slightly. Yes, not in a manner that violates your privacy, but in a manner that records what is necessary to understand your capabilities and character. The photograph is a representation of your significance to me. Ethan felt his face flush. Significance to you? Yes, she said. You are of interest. Not because of personal preference in your culture, but because of qualities you possess. Qualities that may affect the success of this station and human-alien cooperation. Ethan felt a mixture of awe and embarrassment. He never imagined that an alien, a scientist of high rank, would take notice of him personally, beyond his work. And yet, it made sense. He had worked long hours, often taking risks others would not, ensuring both human and alien technologies functioned together without failure. Still, he had never thought anyone noticed that beyond routine evaluation. Lyra studied him for a moment longer, then spoke again. Your accidental entry yesterday revealed something about you. Your reaction. Hesitation, respect, fear, honesty. These are qualities I observe, qualities that are important. Ethan nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of her words. He had always tried to do his best, but recognition from Lyra, someone whose culture was so different, whose standards were far higher, felt. It's profoundly different from human praise. The moment was broken by a sudden alert from the station's core systems. Red lights flashed softly, and an alarm beeped in the background. Ethan and Lyra turned toward the display screens. There was an anomaly in the energy flow, something that could disrupt the balance of the entire station if not addressed quickly. Lyra's posture shifted instantly. Calm, precise, and commanding. This requires immediate attention, she said. We work together. Ethan followed her instructions, moving to the console beside her. They began analyzing the data side by side. Alien technology was complex, organic, almost intuitive, while human technology relied on logic and engineering principles. They combined the two approaches, exchanging observations, adjusting parameters, and troubleshooting problems that neither could solve alone. During the process, Ethan noticed something subtle. Lyra observed him as he worked, but not critically. She seemed fascinated. Every action he took, every calculation, every decision she recorded with interest. And when she spoke, her voice was clear, precise. But it carried a hint of something he could not identify. Approval, curiosity, even admiration. Hours passed. Sweat ran down Ethan's face, though the station's temperature was controlled. His mind worked at full capacity, guided by Lyra's insights and tempered by his own experience. The anomaly was complex, and they were pushing the limits of both human and alien technology. Yet slowly, their combined efforts began to stabilize the system. Finally, after tense minutes that felt like hours, the energy flow normalized. Lights returned to their normal color, alarms ceased, and the station hummed softly, as if relieved. Lyra exhaled softly, a rare human-like gesture of relief. Ethan wiped his forehead and sank back in his chair, exhausted. For a moment, neither spoke. The bond formed during crisis was palpable mutual respect, understanding, and an unspoken acknowledgement of each other's abilities. Then Lyra spoke, her tone calm but firm. You have potential beyond your current role. That is why the photograph exists. You represent something important, not just to humans, but to the cooperation of species on this station. Ethan nodded, trying to absorb the meaning. I didn't know. I never expected that anyone would notice me like that. Lyra's eyes softened slightly, a gesture humans would interpret as warmth. Notice is not enough. Observation and understanding are necessary. You possess qualities that humans rarely realize they have. Qualities that can influence outcomes far beyond your understanding. Ethan felt a strange mixture of pride and humility. He had never thought of himself as important. Yet here was an alien of high rank acknowledging his value. And it was not flattery. It was truth, observation, and recognition. By the end of the day, Ethan returned to his quarters, exhausted but mentally energized. The incident in Lyra's room, the photograph, and the morning conversation had shifted something in him. He was no longer just a human engineer on an alien station. He was part of something larger, something that required attention, courage, and intelligence beyond the ordinary. And somewhere not far away, Lyra reflected on the day as well. The human had surprised her not by intention, but by the qualities he displayed naturally. He had entered her room by accident, yet he had become significant in ways even she did not fully understand. The photograph on her wall was more than an image, it was a symbol. A reminder that one human, brave and intelligent, could make a difference in a universe that often overlooked the small and the ordinary. Ethan did not yet realize the ripple he had created by stepping into that room, but the alien had. The aftermath of the attack weighed heavily on the flagship. Repairs were underway, but tension lingered in the air. Princess Lyria moved among her advisors and staff with practiced grace. Yet she could feel her mind constantly drawn to Jason. Every glance, every gesture, every word from him resonated in ways she could not fully understand. The soulmate indicator pulsed faintly whenever they were near, a quiet but persistent reminder of the bond she could not deny. Jason, too, felt the weight of the days that had passed. The danger had revealed strengths and qualities in him he had never been forced to show so clearly. He was proud of his actions, yet he also understood the implications of what had occurred. A human activating the princess's soulmate indicator was unprecedented. He did not fully comprehend it, but he knew that this connection, whether he wanted it or not, could not be ignored. YRIA spent much of her day reviewing reports from the recent attack. She scrutinized the enemy's strategy, the timing of their assault, and the damage caused. Yet her attention often wandered, her eyes unconsciously seeking Jason's presence among the guards and delegation members. She watched him quietly, noting how he moved with confidence and purpose, how he treated the alien guards with respect, and how his presence inspired calm even amid the chaos of the flagship's repairs. Later, Lyria called Jason to a private chamber to discuss security updates. The room was spacious, lined with soft lighting and advanced holographic displays. She gestured toward a display showing vulnerable areas of the docking bay. "Captain Cole," she began, her voice steady though her chest tightened, "I need your assessment. How can we prevent another attack?" Jason approached the display, his eyes scanning the schematics with precise focus. "The outer perimeter is secure, but the enemy will likely attempt a diversion," he said, pointing at a section of the hologram. "If we reinforce these areas and maintain mobile patrols, the likelihood of a breach is greatly reduced." Lyria nodded, impressed by his strategic insight. She could see the logic in his reasoning, the careful consideration behind every suggestion. And yet, the pull of the soulmate indicator was impossible to ignore. She found herself wishing she could touch him again, even briefly, to confirm the bond she could no longer deny. As they worked side by side, their hands occasionally brushed against each other while interacting with the holographic controls. Each touch sent a subtle pulse through the indicator, making Lyria's heart race. She struggled to maintain composure, but she could not ignore the sensation. It was as if the device was alive, a constant reminder of the connection that had changed everything. The day passed with careful planning. yet the tension remained. Lyria's advisors noticed her distraction but attributed it to the stress of the recent attack. They did not understand the true cause, the human who had touched her hand, the one who had unknowingly activated a bond meant to last a lifetime. Later that evening, Lyria wandered the gardens alone, seeking a moment of quiet reflection. The flowers glowed softly under the artificial lights, and the gentle hum of the energy fields created a peaceful atmosphere. She found a bench near a fountain and sat, letting her mind drift. The image of Jason's calm eyes and steady hands filled her thoughts. She could not deny the admiration and respect she felt for him, nor the strange warmth that surged through her chest whenever he was near. Jason approached quietly, having requested a brief moment to speak with the princess. "Princess Lyria," he said, his voice gentle, "may I join you?" She looked up, startled, but relieved to see him. "Yes, of course, Captain," she replied. Gesturing to the empty space beside her, he sat, maintaining a respectful distance. Yet she could feel the tension in the air between them. Neither spoke for a moment, the silence filled with unspoken thoughts and the quiet pulse of the soulmate indicator. Lyria struggled to find words, unsure how to express the emotions that had grown stronger with each passing day. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft but steady. "Captain, I must ask you something." Though I am unsure how to phrase it, Jason turned his gaze toward her, attentive and patient. "Ask, Princess. I will answer as best I can." She hesitated, then said, "Do you feel anything unusual when you are near me? Any sense of connection or understanding?" Her words were careful, cautious, as if revealing too much might break the fragile balance of their growing bond. Jason considered her question. His brow furrowed slightly. "I have noticed a sense of familiarity," he admitted. "A feeling that is hard to explain. It is not like anything I have felt before, but I assumed it was because of the proximity and shared experiences during the delegation's visit." Lyria's heart raced. She wanted to tell him the truth, to reveal the soulmate indicator and the impossible bond it confirmed, yet she feared the consequences. "It is more than familiarity," she said quietly. "There is a device in my world that signals a soulmate. When I touched your hand, it lit up. It is meant to indicate a bond that is meant to last a lifetime." Jason's eyes widened, the weight of her words sinking in. He did not fully understand the device, nor did he grasp the full implications, yet he could see the seriousness in her expression. "A soulmate?" he repeated softly. "You mean you believe I am connected to you in some way?" "Yes," Lyria said, her voice trembling slightly. "I did not believe it could happen with a human. Yet the indicator confirms it, and I cannot deny the connection it has revealed." Jason remained silent for a moment, absorbing the revelation. His mind raced, trying to reconcile the reality of the situation with everything he had known about humans and aliens. "This is extraordinary," he said finally. "I do not fully understand it, but I feel a bond with you as well, Princess. I cannot explain it, yet it is undeniable." The air between them shifted, charged with the acknowledgement of their connection. Lyria felt a mixture of relief and fear. Relief that Jason reciprocated the bond, and fear of the consequences that their union could bring. Her advisors, the council, and the expectations of her empire loomed over her thoughts. Yet in that quiet moment, those concerns seemed distant. All that mattered was the undeniable truth between them, as days turned into weeks. Lyria and Jason found themselves working closely together. Repairs to the flagship progressed, security protocols were strengthened, and plans for the next diplomatic mission were laid. Through it all, their bond deepened. Each touch, each glance, each shared word reinforced the connection the indicator had revealed. Yet the world around them remained fraught with tension. News of the attempted attack had spread quickly, and rival factions were already scheming. Whispers of scandal began to circulate among the council members. Some questioned the princess's judgment, unaware of the extraordinary circumstances that had forged her bond with a human. Lyria knew that any public revelation would be met with resistance, perhaps even hostility. Despite these challenges, she found herself drawn to Jason in ways she could no longer ignore. She observed his courage, his integrity, and his kindness. She watched how he treated her people with respect, how he adapted to their customs without losing his own identity. And each time their hands brushed, each time their eyes met, the soulmate indicator pulsed softly, a quiet affirmation of the connection they shared. One evening, as the flagship hovered above the city, Lyria and Jason stood on the observation deck together. The lights of the city shimmered below, reflecting in their eyes. Lyria took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her responsibilities and the pull of the bond that had changed her life. "Captain," she said softly, "I do not know what the future holds. My people may not understand, and there will be challenges we cannot foresee, but I cannot deny what the indicator has shown, nor the connection I feel with you." Jason turned to her, his expression calm yet resolute. "Princess, I feel the same. Whatever challenges come, we will face them together. This bond, it is not something we can ignore. It is real, and it matters." For the first time, Lyria allowed herself to feel a sense of hope. The world was uncertain, the political landscape dangerous, and their connection unprecedented. Yet she realized that some truths were undeniable, and some bonds could not be broken. The next days brought further challenges, including diplomatic negotiations and continued rebuilding after the attack. Lyria and Jason worked side by side, their growing trust and understanding evident to those who observed them closely. Each small success, each act of courage, reinforced the strength of their bond, and through it all, the soulmate indicator remained a quiet but constant presence, a reminder that their connection was real, profound, and extraordinary. Lyria had faced danger, uncertainty, and fear. Yet she had also discovered something beyond protocol, beyond expectation, beyond reason. She had found a bond that defied the rules of her world, a bond that had chosen a human. And she knew that, no matter the challenges ahead, she could not turn away from it. Ethan had always been careful about boundaries. On the joint human-alien research station, he knew that every door, every room, every corridor could have rules that he did not fully understand. Yet that day his caution slipped. He was hurrying down the dimly lit hall, carrying a stack of reports on human-alien energy integration projects, when he saw a door slightly ajar. He thought it was one of the unused storage rooms, a place where no one usually went. Without thinking, he pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, but not empty. Strange patterns of alien designs covered the walls, and soft light glimmered from devices that Ethan could not immediately recognize. It smelled faintly of exotic flowers, though he guessed they were not flowers at all, but some alien bioorganic decoration. And then his eyes fell on something that made his heart skip. A photo. It was a photo of him. Ethan froze, the papers nearly slipping from his hands. The photo was not just a casual snapshot. It showed him smiling, holding a human engineering tool with dirt and grease on his hands, standing in front of a human spacecraft engine module. He didn't remember anyone taking it, yet here it was. Hanging on the wall as if it belonged there, a soft noise made him turn. Lyra. She was standing in the doorway, her tall and elegant form outlined by the light from the corridor. Her skin was a pale, shimmering silver, her eyes large and dark, observing him with a look that made his chest tighten. She looked, startled. But it was not fear, more like shock and something else. Something Ethan couldn't name. I thought this was storage, he said, his voice faltering. The words sounded thin and foolish even to him. Lyra's large eyes blinked slowly, and she did not immediately speak. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, a gesture that seemed both alien and very deliberate. Ethan felt as if she could see everything he had ever done wrong or right in an instant. He swallowed hard and stepped back, papers trembling in his hands. "This room is private," Lyra finally said, her voice soft but carrying an authority that Ethan instinctively respected. I didn't know," he stammered. He was about to apologize again when he noticed her gaze flicking back to the photo. Her expression was unreadable, and for a moment he feared he had committed some cultural crime far worse than entering a private room. Lyra's eyes lingered on the photo, then on him, and she took a step forward. "Why is your image here?" she asked, her voice a mixture of curiosity and something else, something Ethan could not understand. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He didn't know. He didn't know why, and the truth that he had no idea anyone had taken the photo sounded ridiculous. I don't know," he said finally, his words small. "I didn't mean to," she raised a hand, halting him. Not angrily, but firmly. Ethan could not tell whether it was a warning or a signal to stop speaking. The room was silent, except for the faint hum of alien devices. His eyes kept darting to the photo. He had to know why. Lyra did not immediately answer. She simply studied him, her gaze intense, making him feel exposed in ways he had never experienced. It was not the kind of attention humans gave. It was deeper, analytical, personal, and it unsettled him. Yet at the same time, he felt a strange pull toward her, a curiosity he could not explain. "I should leave," he said finally, stepping back. I didn't mean to intrude." Lyra did not move to stop him, but her eyes followed him as he awkwardly backed toward the door. He turned, almost collided with her, then rushed into the corridor. The door shut behind him with a soft click. Leaving him in the familiar hum of the station, he leaned against the wall, breathing heavily, trying to calm the sudden rush of panic and confusion. What had just happened? Why was there a photo of him in her room? And why did it feel as if she had known him for longer than he had known her? The rest of the day passed in a blur. He tried to focus on reports and data analysis, but his mind kept returning to that moment. The way Lyra had looked at him, the way she had not answered his question about the photo. It was unnerving, but not unpleasant. He shook his head. He had work to do. He needed to be careful. Human engineers on alien stations always had to be careful. Meanwhile, in her private quarters, Lyra stood in front of the same photo. She traced the edges with a slender finger. It was not a gesture of ownership. It was more like remembrance. She had been observing Ethan for weeks now. Ever since the humans arrived with their peculiar ways and unpredictable problem-solving skills, there was something about him. And now he had walked into her room. Accidentally, but intentionally maybe, she thought. She smiled faintly, the silver of her skin glinting softly in the room's light. The human had no idea that his every move, every small action had already left an impression. He did not know that someone had noticed his courage, his thoughtfulness. The little things he did that no one else seemed to see, later in the cafeteria. Ethan avoided looking at the alien tables where Lyra sometimes ate. He felt a strange mix of embarrassment and fascination. He was not sure if she had followed him there, but the way she had stared at him earlier made him feel watched. In the most unsettling way, his coworkers noticed. "You look like you just saw a ghost," one of them teased, a fellow engineer named Marla. "Everything okay?" Ethan forced a smile. Yeah, I'm fine," he said, though the lie felt awkward even to him. He could not tell them the truth. If he told anyone that Lyra had a photo of him on her wall, it would sound insane. No one would believe it. And besides, he did not even understand it himself. Back in her room, they were prepared for the evening, her mind still on the human. She studied his patterns, remembered his reactions, and considered the possibilities. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but some of them had remarkable potential. Ethan had potential she wanted to understand, to nurture. The night came, and the station quieted. Ethan's room was small but comfortable, filled with simple human belongings. He lay on his bunk, staring at the ceiling, trying to push thoughts of the photo and Lyra from his mind. But they kept coming back. Images of her staring at him. The faint smile she gave when she finally spoke, and the way she seemed to know more than he realized. He did not notice how much he had come to anticipate, seeing her in the corridors. How much he wondered what she thought when she looked at him. It was not attraction in the usual sense. It was curiosity, fascination, and a strange feeling of connection that defied explanation. The next morning, the hum of the station woke him early. He dressed and made his way to the engineering lab, pretending to focus on work. But he could not ignore the thought that somewhere close by, Lyra might be watching. And the memory of that photo on the wall, his own face, smiling, frozen in a moment he barely remembered, kept replaying in his mind. He knew one thing for certain. His life on the station was about to change. That accidental step into her room, that brief moment of intrusion, had opened a door literally and figuratively that he could never close again. And somewhere, in the quiet of her own room, Lyra looked at the photo once more. She wondered how long it would take for the human to understand that he had already become part of her thoughts, part of her focus, part of her plans. The station hummed around them. Humans and aliens working side by side. Unaware of the small ripple that Ethan had caused by simply stepping into a room he should not have entered. But the ripple would grow, and soon both human and alien would notice it. Ethan did not sleep well that night. He did not know what the next day would bring, but he felt a strange excitement, a tension that made his heart race. He had entered a world he did not fully understand, and it had entered him in return. The human and the alien, strangers yet connected in ways they did not yet realize, were now linked by a single photograph, a single moment, and a single accident that would change everything, and neither of them would ever forget it. Ethan had come a long way since the accidental proposal. The once awkward human was now confident, clever, and capable of navigating the complex world of Kyrian warriors. He had earned respect through strategy, courage, and quick thinking. And he had learned to survive and even thrive beside Scylla, the fiercest warrior on Zethera. Yet the final test of his journey was about to begin, one that would determine not only his place among the Kyrians, but the future of his bond with Scylla. The council announced a ceremonial challenge, a trial that combined combat, strategy, and diplomacy. All warriors, regardless of rank, were required to participate, and the results would determine recognition and honor for those involved. For Ethan, this was both an opportunity and a trial by fire. Failure could be humiliating, but success would solidify his place beside Scylla. The arena was unlike any Ethan had seen before. It was vast, circular, and filled with shifting obstacles, platforms, and simulated combatants. Each section tested a different skill. One required agility, another strategic thinking, another endurance, and a final area simulated negotiation with rival factions. The challenge demanded versatility, precision, and composure. Scylla stood beside him at the entrance, her golden eyes gleaming. "This is your moment, human," she said softly. "Do not fear failure. Trust your mind, your instincts, and your courage. And remember, I am watching." Ethan took a deep breath, his heart racing. "I won't disappoint you," he said, though part of him wondered if he could truly succeed. The challenge began. Ethan navigated the first obstacle, a series of moving platforms over a simulated chasm. His human agility, combined with quick thinking, allowed him to leap, dodge, and balance with precision. He reached the end unscathed, earning a nod from Scylla and murmurs of approval from other observers. Next came the combat simulation. Multiple Kyrian warriors, trained and fast, were pitted against him. Ethan relied not on strength, but on strategy. He analyzed their patterns, used the environment cleverly, and anticipated their moves. Each encounter tested his adaptability, but he remained focused. Moving with a mixture of caution and ingenuity, one particularly large warrior attempted to corner him. Ethan noticed a low wall and rolled under it, coming up behind the attacker. With a swift maneuver, he neutralized the threat without injury, earning gasps from the audience. Scylla's expression was a mixture of pride and amusement. "Well done, human." Cleverness outshines raw strength once again. The endurance section tested stamina and resilience. Ethan had to climb, balance, and maneuver through obstacles for long periods without rest. His muscles ached, and sweat poured down his face, but he pressed on, drawing on the lessons Scylla had taught him: focus, patience, and calculated effort. Even as fatigue set in, he completed the course. Proving his determination and resilience, The final section, simulated negotiation with rival factions. Ethan had to speak, reason, and resolve conflicts without aggression, relying entirely on diplomacy and human ingenuity. The Kyrians were impressed by his calm demeanor, logical reasoning, and ability to find creative solutions under pressure. When the trial concluded, the council convened to deliberate. Ethan waited beside Scylla, nervous but proud. The murmurs of the assembled warriors reflected a mixture of surprise, respect, and admiration. Ethan had not only survived, but excelled, demonstrating that a human could indeed be clever, courageous, and capable of holding his own in a Kyrian world. Corinne, the head of the council, stepped forward. "Human," he began, his voice carrying authority. "You have shown ingenuity, courage, and adaptability beyond what we expected. You have earned respect through your actions, and your bond with Scylla appears to strengthen both of you. Today, you have proven that a human can indeed thrive among Kyrians." Cheer erupted from the assembled warriors, some clapping in approval, others nodding in acknowledgement. Terran, who had once doubted him, approached and extended a hand. "You have my respect," he said. Ethan shook it, smiling, feeling the validation of his hard work and perseverance. Scylla's expression softened as she stepped closer. "You have done well, human. You have earned your place beside me, not only by ceremony, but through action. You are no longer just clever. You are capable, resilient, and intriguing." Ethan felt his heart race, a mix of pride, relief, and something more he could not name. "Thank you, Scylla. I could not have done this without you." Scylla tilted her head, a teasing smile returning to her lips. "Perhaps. Or perhaps you always had it in you. I only helped you see it. Remember, humans can surprise us when we least expect it." The days that followed were filled with celebration. Ethan's success in the ceremonial challenge earned him recognition among the Kyrians, and the bond between him and Scylla deepened. The flirtation that had once seemed overwhelming became a playful, mutual dance of teasing and respect. He found himself looking forward to each encounter, each lesson, and each subtle challenge she presented. One evening, as they walked through the crystalline gardens, Scylla spoke softly, her tones serious, yet gentle. "You have changed, human. When we first met, you were uncertain, awkward, and easily flustered. Now, you are composed, clever, and resilient. You have earned your place here beside me in a way I did not expect." Ethan glanced at her, feeling a warmth he could not explain. I feel like I've grown too. I've learned more than I ever imagined I could, and I've had a guide unlike any other. You taught me more than combat or strategy. You taught me to see my own potential." Scylla smiled, brushing a hand against his arm. "And you have exceeded my expectations. Humans are strange, unpredictable, and perhaps worth watching more closely." Ethan laughed softly, a mix of relief and joy. The accidental proposal, once a source of panic, had led him to this moment, a place where he was respected, capable, and connected to a warrior who had challenged him in every way. The following weeks solidified his place in Kyrian society. Ethan participated in patrols, ceremonial events, and strategy sessions, contributing his unique perspective as a human. He earned trust, respect, and even friendship among warriors who had once doubted him. And Scylla continued to tease, guide, and challenge him, her bond growing stronger with each shared moment. One morning, Scylla approached him with a rare, serious expression. "Human, the council has acknowledged your achievements. You have proven your courage, wit, and adaptability. But beyond that, you have learned to navigate our world, understand our ways, and survive alongside me. That is no small feat." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "I understand, and I'm grateful for your guidance, your trust, and everything you've taught me." Scylla's eyes glimmered with warmth. "Do not misunderstand, human. You have proven yourself. But remember, our bond is not only about survival. It is about partnership, trust, and well-avo. Perhaps more. You must continue to grow, not only as a human among Kyrians, but as someone who can stand beside me, equally respected and valued." Ethan felt a surge of determination. I will, I promise. The final ceremony came, a celebration of achievement, honor, and the bonds between warriors. Ethan was acknowledged publicly. His name called alongside Scylla's, the crowd cheered, and for the first time, he felt fully accepted in a world that had once seemed impossible to navigate. Scylla leaned close, her golden eyes shining. You have done well, human. Not just for yourself, but for us. Remember this day. It is the beginning of something greater. Ethan smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and challenges that seemed insurmountable. He had adapted, learned, and grown stronger, proving that a human's mind, courage, and ingenuity could stand alongside the fiercest warrior in the galaxy. And as the sun set over Zathera, painting the sky in brilliant hues of violet and gold, Ethan realized something profound. The accidental proposal had been no accident at all. It was the start of an extraordinary journey. One that had tested him, shaped him, and connected him to a warrior unlike any other. He looked at Scylla, feeling a bond that was equal parts respect, trust, and something deeper. She had challenged him, guided him, and even teased him relentlessly. Yet she had also recognized his potential and accepted him as he was. Ethan knew the path ahead would not be easy. There would be more challenges, more tests, and perhaps more rivalries. But he was no longer afraid. He had grown, adapted, and proven himself. And most importantly, he had learned that human ingenuity, courage, and heart could thrive even in a world dominated by warriors far stronger and faster than him. Scylla smiled, sensing his thoughts. You are ready, human. And perhaps ready for more than even you realize. Ethan returned her smile, feeling a mix of anticipation, pride, and a strange thrill that only she could evoke. I'm ready, he said softly. Together, they walked forward, side by side, into a world of adventure, challenge, and discovery. Ethan was no longer just an accidental fiancé. He was a partner, a warrior in his own right, and a human who had proven that courage, cleverness, and heart could stand among the greatest warriors of Zathera. And as they moved through the crystalline forests, across the polished city streets, and into the ever-changing challenges of their world, Ethan knew one thing with certainty. He was exactly where he belonged. The journey that had begun with a mistake had become a story of growth, respect,